the quantum erasure, where they sort of they detect where it goes and then they erase the record of where they detected, and it's as if things go into one mode and then switch back to another mode. It is kind of confusing to figure out how they can do that. I mean, how do they know that it was one way and then switched? Okay, but I've followed these things through many times, and they seem pretty scientifically solid. But I'm a ways from really understanding what they're doing there. But the idea there is that, okay, these cross sections that we see, when you see a certain cross section, then you're following that seam, in this multidimensional space, in this space where there's whole different universes, next to each other and all packed in this multidimensional space. And we're in one universe, which is really just one little cross section, and we get in a seam. And the thing is, it's like, well, and if you erase the record of what got you in that seam, you can slip over into another seam, into another cross section. Okay, and this actually makes sense because if there is a big multidimensional space, you should be able to navigate it. And so it turns out that there is a way for it to navigate. Now, from our point of view, where we think this is a whole universe, it looks like universes are splitting because we take this path, not this path. And in that sense, it also looks like universes can rejoin because we can get back onto that other path. Okay, so it's kind of like in the macroscopic level, if you flip a coin, if that's really quantum random event, maybe it's not, but let's just say it is, because I can create a kind of a coin flipping device with a Geiger counter, which would be quantum driven. So it's like if I flip that coin, it comes up heads and tails, and I look at it, I see the tails cross section, I fly into the tails cross section. And but if I forget that it was tails, if it has no impact on my life, so not only do I not forget, but I don't take a photo, there's no record of that, and it becomes meaningless to my life, it makes no difference in my life whatsoever, literally none, then I can rejoin the universe where it might have become heads. Now, none of this implies will is going on in any of these processes, but it does give room for will, and it also satisfies the determinists, because everything is determinable in the sense that everything happens, everything possible happens. Okay, but for some reason we take one cross section rather than another. Okay, all right, and it doesn't have to be that it's possible for us to will for something to come up heads and always take the heads cross section and defy randomness. Now, probably we can't do that. I think there'll be a trap and a trick where we can't do that, but it does mean there could be something in the will which we make other decisions that affect whether it's heads or tails. Like, for example, you say that it's really determinable whether it's heads or tails. Well, maybe the quantum decision is something that goes into our nerve responses, which makes it hit a little more or a little less, and we don't know which one's going to go to heads and which one's going to go to tails, but it does make the difference, and it is because of will. Okay, it gives room for that. And and nowhere do the particles necessarily have life, but there's room for it to be expressed. The reason I do go sometimes into what you consider a phantasmagorical thing of breaking will down into what will might be for elementary particles, what phenomena might be the element of will when added together on our scale create will. It's like magnetism, as I use a lot. It's like, this is made of magnets, but it's not magnetic. Is it because magnetism doesn't add up in the macroscopic level? No, it's because these things are all at random orientation, so they're canceling each other out. If I oriented them all right, it would be a powerful magnet. Okay, and it's the same kind of thing with will. I'm looking for something which is not expressed as will per se, and which usually cancels out, but if aligned, the power of will aligned in the molecular case, then you could see it in the macroscopic level. And since I do see it in the macroscopic level, I expect to see this component in material matter because everything's material. But that's separate from the quantum thing. I don't think that choosing which universe is the open for will. What it does give room is that there's room for free choice, not to make things happen, because in the big universe everything happens, but to choose which things we will experience, which things will happen for us. So the will somehow becomes this process of us cutting a cross section in the multiverse.